The second speech that we will do in Comp 210 is a special occasion speaking. The first speech that we did, which was the demonstration speech, its purpose was to inform. The second speech that we will do, the purpose it is to celebrate, commemorate, or perhaps to even entertain. And the type of special occasion speaking that we ask that you do in this assignment is called the toast. So what we are asking is that for each of you to prepare a toast that entertains an audience and celebrates a special occasion. Now, this type of speech is often done in our personal lives, but it is also done in our professional lives. So you might be toasting somebody at a commitment ceremony or wedding, or somebody's graduation ceremony, or you might be toasting somebody when you are in your office and you are celebrating the employee of the month. So we ask that you prepare a speech. This speech is shorter than many of the other speeches that we do in the class. It is anywhere between 2.5 minutes and 5 minutes. And speeches that are above 5.5 and below 2 minutes will lose a 10% deduction because they are outside of the grace period. So the minimum on the speech is 2 minutes and the maximum is 5.5 minutes. And so what we ask you to do is to think about somebody that you would want to toast. Who is somebody that you would want to celebrate? So we give you an example of a lot of different occasions: a retirement, a graduation, a divorce. Perhaps you want to do a milestone birthday. So this toast is not a eulogy and it is not a roast. So a eulogy typically is done shortly after somebody has passed away. And so for this assignment that we ask that you don't talk about somebody who has just recently passed away. Now if you want to give a toast to someone that you are coming together 5 years after they have passed away to celebrate them, then you could do a toast at that point. And the difference is that when somebody has passed away, people are grieving. And 5 years after somebody's died, it isn't that they aren't experiencing grief anymore, but the rhetorical situation is very, very different. And that the goal of the speech isn't to comfort, which is a eulogy, but it's to celebrate that person. So often when we do a celebration of life, it is sometimes very distant from when the person passed away, and that the throes of the grief that you experience when you lose someone, hopefully through time, alter or change. So it is not a eulogy. The other mistake is that sometimes students think of it as a roast, and a toast and a roast are two different rhetorical situations. So I think the example that best demonstrates this is the difference between what you would say in a wedding ceremony when it has a large crowd and there are, people there beyond, what would be said appropriately at the maid of honor or the best man's speech. So whenever there is somebody who is in a smaller setting, just a group of friends who are close to the people who are getting married, that's more intimate and usually more casual. And the wedding itself is more public. So you would do a toast in public and a roast with just your closest friends. And so for this class, in order to receive academic credit, we ask that you do a toast rather than doing a roast, which I really enjoy. And I think a roast is fun. It just won't meet the rhetorical sort of expectations and the learning objectives of this assignment. So what we ask you to do is we'd like you to think of somebody that you actually know, somebody that you want to honor. So we say in the description that Bill Gates, you don't actually know Bill Gates, so we don't want you to do a speech about Bill Gates. We don't want you to do a toast hypothetically to your future spouse that you haven't met yet. But if you wanted to do a toast to somebody that you are romantically involved with, that would be fine if it was their birthday or some other occasion. So what we're actually wanting you to do is to think about the people in your life, and then you are going to give a toast to them. We also want you to think about If you are being creative, we want to make sure that you check in with your lab instructor in maybe it's a great idea, or maybe it is something that we are like, I don't think that's really going to meet the goals of this assignment. So if you are going to do something besides a retirement, a graduation, a professional accomplishment, a birthday, somebody's adopting a child, any of those types of occasions would totally work. If there's something that you are thinking creatively out of the box, I would double check with your lab instructor to make sure it is what we're looking for. You are going to have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, the speech, just like you will in all of the other speeches. And we are going to begin with something creative as your first line, and then you're going to welcome everybody, have some sort of introductory remarks. And you also in this assignment are going to want to do a couple of other things. One is that we ask that you have at least one joke. And what you will notice on the rubric is that we don't say that joke is funny, but we want you to attempt a joke. We also want you to tell a story. And a story is not referencing a story. A story has a clear beginning, middle, and end. So rather than you saying, oh, I could tell you stories all day long about pranks that we did as a kid, we really want you to say, okay, I've got a story to tell you about Johnny. And then you tell us the story about Johnny and when you were in 7th grade and the prank that you two engaged in. So you would really develop the story for us rather than just claiming to have stories or referencing stories. So in your organization, you are going to organize narratively, which would be, you would have a clear storyline in the body of your speech, and you're going to also have a joke somewhere. And then you are going to end your speech with some sort of compliment or wish to the audience. You're going to toast to whoever is there. So for this assignment, we ask that everyone bring some sort of drink with them, a non-alcoholic drink, because we are a dry campus, but you can bring, your water bottle if that's convenient for you, or a glass, or whatever you want to do, but you're going to have some sort of item that you are going to hold up and you're going to toast to whoever it is that you are talking to. And so that is the components of the speech. What this speech will be graded heavily on is your delivery. We ask that you, in this assignment, write the speech out word for word. It's a short speech, and then commit it to memory. And this is not an extemporaneous speech. This is a memorized speech. So you are going to turn in your manuscript, and then you are going to deliver as best as you can, as close as you can to what you have drafted. So the lot of the types of speeches like this, word choice is particularly important. You would spend some time thinking about, what is the best way to say, I'm proud of you? How do you develop that idea? What would be an important way to frame a sentence that would make your audience laugh or to bring tears to your audience? So we will ask in this speech that you write your speech out word for word, that you really edit it and make sure it's the best draft as possible, and then you will memorize that speech. And then you will come to class, you will stand in front of the class, you'll have a drink available to you sitting on a table or a counter near you. You will deliver the speech and you will end by raising a glass and doing a toast to whoever it is that you are toasting to in the presentation. So you're not required to have any visual aids, but you will turn in a manuscript copy. And in that manuscript, we ask you to label in color 3 different items. The first one is we ask that your story be coded in green, your joke, we would like you to highlight it in yellow, and your toast or your compliment or your well wish, we ask that you do that in blue. That helps, one, guarantee that you have the components necessary in the assignment, but also that we know what you're attempting. What is it that your perception is of a story? What is your perception of the joke or the well wish? So that we know that you have made those strategic choices in the planning of your speech. So you will write your manuscript out word for word, and then you're going to submit that as a Word doc or as a PDF. And you can even do an RTF. But this assignment, we actually run that assignment through Turnitin to guarantee that there is no, that you don't just find one on the internet, because there are so many of them on the internet. And the other thing is to make sure that you aren't sharing it with your peers. We like to see you do your original work. So you'll see in the rookie mistakes, we'll talk about how, if you are writing a speech about your dad, go ahead and write it about your dad rather than finding a generic speech about your dad online. That'll be so much more meaningful, and it'll be so much easier to memorize if you write it. And then it'll be so much easier to deliver it from the heart if it's your own words. And more importantly, I think it's a nice chance to sit around and think about, and then spend a little bit of time thinking about if you were being asked to speak on behalf of your best friend, of your brother, of your boss, of your favorite, player on your team. What would you want to say to them? And then that is just good for everybody to think about, and then for you to practice delivering. You will see the different elements on the rubric that are available for you. I want to draw your attention to the two emphasized skills at the bottom of the rubric. The first one is delivery. So you are being graded particularly on both your verbal and your nonverbal delivery. What does your fluency look like? How is your pronunciation? What is happening with your gestures and your facial expressions? Are you making direct and sustained eye contact? Is your delivery style conversational? Does it appear as if you are committed to the message that you are delivering? Are you connecting with your audience? Is it the pacing of the speech appropriate, and does it vary throughout the presentation? So that will be the delivery elements that you will be evaluated on. You will also be evaluated on this idea of making a moment. And so what a making a moment really does is that it uses timing and your delivery and your word choice to really connect with your audience and to make it memorable and powerful. So you will use emotional appeals to really have a nice moment with your audience. And often in a toast, that is something that is felt and is heartfelt for your audience. And so, where in the speech will you really hold the audience in your hand and say, this is our time to celebrate together, to have some sort of section of your speech that your audience knows that you are really bringing them and having some sort of appreciation for the message that you are delivering. So you'll be graded heavily on delivery and also on making a moment, as well as the other elements that you can find individually in your rubric. And I'd encourage you to go through it line by line to make sure that you have all of the elements that are associated with what you're going to be evaluated on. This speech is such a nice opportunity to really come together and celebrate the best presentations that I've seen. They make me laugh, they bring a tear to my eye, and I feel like it's such a gift that you share with us by telling us about how important your grandmother has been, or sharing a story about something from your childhood with your best friend. And I also think sometimes it's a good opportunity to think in the near future instructor. We look forward to this presentation and learning all about the people in your life that you would like to toast to.